When I first started with the Department of Education, drugs and alcohol. Got to hit drugs and alcohol. Then we had a rash of suicides in our area, in southeastern PA. Got to do depression and suicide. What's the big topic now? Cyberbullying. Bullying and cyberbullying. That's the big topic today. But I want you to understand something. That's a topic. There's always going to be a hot topic. There's going to be eating disorders. There's going to be gang violence. There's going to be depression. There's going to be suicide. But here's the concept. How do we build a safe school? That's the umbrella. My name's Larry Newman, and I'm one of the co-creators of the Masonic Model Student Assistance Program. I've been doing this work since 1989, and the program first developed in Pennsylvania in 1983-84. We've been consistently doing it across the country with Masonic support since 1989. I can remember naively thinking, how hard can this be? But I wasn't ready for what happened next. After my 4th year of teaching, my principal brings me into her office at the end of the school year, and she said, Larry, we've identified 13 boys from 5th grade who we think need a strong male role model. And she pumped me up pretty good. She said, they're non-special ed, so there's no AIDS involved, but we want you to take these 13 boys self-contained next year, just you and them. Yipper. And I was young enough, naive enough, and I believed it, so I took these 13 boys. I left the classroom in 1979 to work for the Department of Education in Pennsylvania. And I worked there until 1989. By the time I left the Department of Education in 1989, 9 of those 13 boys were dead. It's not enough to identify a problem. It's not enough to look at a child and say, this is what's wrong in his or her life, because some of that stuff we can't fix.
Any life event is going to affect a child. So if it's moving, if it's homelessness, if it's divorce, if it's any kind of family change, it could be the birth of a sibling, it could be the death of a family member. The counselor perspective is that if students' basic needs aren't met, their social, emotional needs aren't met, they're not going to perform well academically.
What's it like to be a kid in America today? Can we agree that it's changed since we came up? You tell me, from your life experience, what's different being a kid today than when you came up? And we have various ages in here. So what's different? Social media, that's number one. Number one. What else?
Single-parent families.
Single-parent families. Anything else? Technology. We're very reactionary. Drugs and alcohol were hot back in the 80s, so we focused on drugs and alcohol. Depression and suicide became hot back in the late 80s and in the 90s. We focused on depression and suicide. We put in eating disorders because we put in eating disorders, and it seemed to be a trend. Now it's cyberbullying. Now it's bullying in general in our schools. You know the number one form of cyberbullying right now? I just read the research. Number one method for cyberbullying. Instant messaging, number one. On average in the United States, every single day, 4 children die from abuse or neglect. 8 children or teens killed by firearms every day in the United States. I'm not talking about the Second Amendment. That's a statistic. That's what it is. How about this? 33 children or teens die from accidents every day in the United States. 50% of those accidents are alcohol related. 5 children or teens commit suicide every day in the United States. That number's low. That number's low. That number's probably somewhere between 8 and 10 per day. The youngest documented suicide in the United States occurred in 1993 in Hollywood, Florida, and the little girl was 5 years old. 5. Make sense to anybody? Were there mental health issues involved? I don't know. I know 5-year-olds shouldn't kill themselves. But I'm hearing more 8, 9, and 10-year-old suicides right now than I've heard in my entire life. That is frightening. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of reading about little kids who don't want to be here. I'm tired of it. The reason that I keep going in this business is because I keep seeing younger and younger kids not want to be here anymore. Some of our children come from severely dysfunctional families. And many times I think what happens is people look and they say, if only the parents could do this, or if only the parents could do that. One of my core beliefs, and I hope a core value, is families do the best they can with the skills they have at that point in time. I can't fix that. I can provide resources, I can provide help, but I can't go in and intervene with that family. Think of a kid right now back at school you're worried about. Can you think of one? Just one. Just one. Give me some reasons why you're worried. Don't mention a kid's name, but why you're worried. Tell me. What are you seeing that makes you concerned for this kid?
Don't come to school.
Don't come to school.
Tired all the time.
Tired all the time.
Lack of supervision.
Lack supervision.
Can't focus.
Can't focus.
Unkempt.
Straight F's.
Unkempt.
Unkempt.
Abused.
Abuse. Okay, we got it. If there's problems at home, there's nothing we can do at school to fix those problems. We can try to get outside resources, but invariably it comes down to what's possible in a school setting. What strengths do you see in that kid? What are the gifts that that kid has and brings to school every single day? Maybe for that kid who's getting straight F's, maybe for some reason the kid can show up. Maybe for some kids it's that survival mechanism that they have, and you look at some of the lives our children live in and you say, whoa, wait a second here. How's this kid even making it? Our program is a little unique because we focus on two things. Number one is strength-based intervention. Not only what's wrong with the child, but what's right with the child. What skills does the child bring? When we look at intervention, I want to stop the unkempt. I want to stop the F's. Don't misunderstand. But how about if we find the strength that this kid has and try to use that as part of the intervention process? How about if we do that? And you know what's neat about it? We have the research to back it up now. There are things that are absolutely measurable. A research study that was conducted in 2003 by Dr. Carl Furtman confirmed those results. We have hardcore data that says if we do this stuff, and you're going to see it this morning, if we do this stuff, then we're going to create some change for our children.
Sometimes the idea of intervention, when people hear that word, they think of something really serious, that it has to be like, the student's going to be tested, the student's going to be this, and sometimes the best intervention is a social skills lunch, or friendship lunch, or just being able to have a point person in the building to just check in on the student. I mean, think about how good it feels when someone just checks in on you regularly, just to see how you're doing. It feels really good. And for children, it's no different.
You know, I'm looking at a wide group here. We have elementary, we have middle school, we have high school. When we first started this work, and I've been doing this work since 1983, we first started this work, we focused on you guys. We focused on the high schools. Because we kept saying, well, that's where the issues are, that's where the violence is, that's where the drugs are, that's where we've got to start. Okay, we've got to work there. You know where I want to start? I want to start at the elementary school. How many of you have ever looked at a kid's eyes and seen the sparkle gone? It's out. Flames out. We're hearing that in 3rd, 4th grade. It's really? There's nothing to live for? I want to create strengths in these kids from elementary through high school, so by the time they get to you guys, they've been working on some of those strengths. Yeah, the problems are going to be there. I understand that. How do we make a school a safe environment for our children? How do I know when I come to this place I'm going to be safe? I'm going to be safe physically, I'm going to be safe mentally, I'm going to be safe emotionally. Schools are islands of safety for children. I come into your house, I know what to expect consistently. I go to my house, all bets are off. All bets are off. So just understand that. Understand that for some children, you are the sanest person they're going to see today. For some children, they come to school, and schools are the only safe place they go. It's a consistent environment. There are rules in place, and for a child who comes from a family where that may not be the case, school does in fact become an island of safety. I feel safe here, I feel secure here, I know I'm cared for here.
The school really is an island of safety. It's a place
where everything's reliable and it's going to go in a certain order and there aren't going to be any surprises, and helping the teachers to effect that kind of atmosphere in their classroom is just a great thing.
1,115 adolescents have abortions every day in the United States? Every day? And adolescents, defined by the federal government, by the way, grades 6 through 12. 1,153 adolescents give birth to their first child every day in the United States. I don't know what 1,153 times 365 is, but it's a big number. The next one I never read. You read it. Go ahead. Unbelievable, isn't it? Teachers are doing a heck of a job already. They're working as hard as they possibly can, and as the economy's changed, they're working even with more limited resources. Class sizes are going up. The number of at-risk kids seems to be increasing, although I don't think that's it. I think what's happening is we're seeing more kids manifesting as a result of the things that are going on in their families and in their communities. One out of 3 teachers will not make it to retirement. Third most stressful occupation in the United States. That's you guys.
Kids are the #1 resource we have in America. You spend more time with the kids than the parents do, statistically. Therefore, and in reality. So therefore, you are the second most important resource in America. So I really feel honored to be able to contribute anything to this program. I think it's a universal program, as Larry said, where we're not talking about specific topics. The topics are handled by universal method.
We truly believe in helping kids. The Masons have always believed in that, and we continue to believe in that. And we believe, and you will learn, that this program is phenomenal.
When you start to look at why something works, how a program works, I think what we do is we take a look at our schools and we say, everybody has a program similar to this. We reinvent things in our schools. Much like I do with a kid, what are the strengths that this child has? What are the strengths your school has? What's working in your existing program? So we tell people right up front at the first morning of training, we're not going to ask you to scrap what you're doing and accept us. What we're going to say is, we're going to present information to you. See what fits for your community, what fits for your school, what fits for your staff. Take that piece and make your program better.
Using the Model Student Assistance Program, we were able to identify objective behavior and identify 4 different areas where those behaviors might come up. And so those behaviors were in attendance, behavior, health and safety issues, as well as academic. So teachers are able to look at those 4 topics and say, okay, where is the student struggling, or where am I not connecting with this student? And then they can refer them to the student support team.
One of the things that we talk about is, how do you know that a program's being successful? So we take a look at those areas of academics, behavior, health, and attendance. Are we increasing a child's attendance? Are we decreasing the number of behavioral referrals that child's getting? Are we keeping that child in school? Are we decreasing suspensions? Are we decreasing expulsions? Are we in fact seeing any change in their academic performance in school?
The most powerful tools I think that we can give teachers is the opportunity to come together as a team and take the parts of what Larry has to offer and combine them with what they already have in their schools and among their group, and just come up with a really effective plan for them. Because we're not trying to remake everything that they do. We're just trying to add to their knowledge and give them just a few extra tools that will really help them.
What we want you to understand is, when you come out of here, we're going to, well, as we work together, we're going to ask you to look at what you're currently doing. What's working, what's not? What can we do better? What can we put in place that maybe we're not thinking about right now? That's our goal.
We were able to identify what was going on with this student because of our process. So the way that the process looks is, we definitely have a formula, and we explain that to the teacher as they come in. We say, this is our protocol. We spend 20 minutes looking at each student, and we are strict with our time because we don't want to admire the problem. We want it to be productive and constructive and positive.
We try to show teachers, be as concise as you can. Here's how you do it. Here's how you make it happen. And at the end, usually by the second morning when they do the second case, they're amazed that in 20 minutes they're actually able to get through a process that for many of them they can't get through in 40 minutes or 50 minutes.
The teacher has 5 to 7 minutes to present a student. We allow 2 minutes for clarifying questions and comments, and then 5 minutes of brainstorming, and then 5 minutes of action planning, and 2 minutes of follow-up. In the brainstorming time, I mean, anything is possible. We don't limit it to, what are academic interventions. We just come up with ideas because you just never know what might come up. And allowing that full 5 minutes to, let both sides of the brain kick in.
2 years ago, we did a training. We had a very small group. I think we had a dozen. And the training was in danger of being canceled. Grand Secretary here said, you know what, if this helps one kid, it's worth it, so let's do it. The next week, I happened to be home in my office, and I got a phone call from Katie, who was a first-year counselor, and she had just had a young 6th grade girl come into her room. She was showing her drawings and poems that were decidedly disturbing. And Katie said, I don't know what to do. So I took her through a process, and I said, okay, let's go through the steps. And it took about 2.5 hours. I was pacing in my living room. I imagine Katie was pacing as well. But we got an intervention done with that girl that afternoon because all the players were out of the building. And I tell people in training, it's going to happen. You develop your plan, you develop your process, and count on the people you need not being there. It's a Friday, they're at meetings, they're somewhere else. So Katie had to go to Plan B, Plan C, and Plan D. We finally got the interventionist to get to school. It took about an hour and a half. They did the intervention, and that afternoon that little girl was taken to a mental health facility, and it was determined that she was in fact suicidal. So that training the following week saved the life of a 6th grade girl.
One of the students that we have been able to follow up with, who was referred a couple months ago, it seemed like he just needed a purpose. And as we looked at the behavior, it seemed like if he didn't have something to do, that's when we would see behavior escalate. So recently we got him involved with an after-school band program, and it seemed he loves it. The band teacher just raved about him and how he's been doing just awesome because and I think a lot of it has to do with he has a purpose now. He has a role. He has a really strong role. He gets to be a leader. He's got a job.
I think MSAP works as a program because it does bring the teachers together and they can work as a unit. And people, the teachers, the educators who come, they see the value of their experience. They know that they're not coming and listening to just anyone. They're coming and listening to people who are really invested in what they do, and they're invested in education, and they're invested in helping teachers.
Using that process, we were able to identify just anything school-based that could be, the carrot for this child. And it worked.
You just never know who you're going to touch in life, no matter who you are.
The idea of why I do what I do for a living, I've questioned that myself. I really have. I wanted to be a teacher from an early age, and I guess I haven't lost that passion yet. I enjoy teaching. I always envisioned myself winding up my career as an elementary principal, and for whatever reason, fate, whatever, there was another plan in store for me. I happen to believe that there was a higher power that said, no, you need to be doing this. So I got involved with this, and I've loved it. I can't imagine doing anything else. At the end of the first year of training, we do our first 4 trainings, right? And word gets out around the state, man, this is good stuff. It's good stuff. We ran out of money. It was soft money. It's gone. We now have 30-plus school districts on a waiting list to come to training, and we have no way to do it. The Masons came in 1985, funded our program in Pennsylvania, continue to fund the program today. Because of Masonic generosity, we've done trainings in 26 states and portions of Canada.
We have instituted something new this year in coordination with the Oregon Masonic Charitable Foundation, which funds this program. We will pay for any substitute teachers that are necessary while you are at this training.
I would love the Masons to know how much we appreciate, or I appreciate, the training and the generosity, and schools are stretched financially, with time, anything, and so having a really useful training program that we can attend and know that we're being taken care of as far as substitutes, or that it's not a really expensive training is really wonderful. It's really useful.
I would like teachers to know that the MSAP program is put on by Masons because they're devoted to educating children. Education is very important to them. It's one of their founding principles.
We heard some questions, and we hear it at other trainings too. Why the Masons? Why are they involved? Well, the Masonic fraternity for years, decades, for a long time, has focused on giving back. How do we take care of those coming after us? How do we take care of those who came before us? And this is a continuation, I think, of Masonic charity.